Hello and welcome to my first reaction YouTube video. We're going to react to the game yesterday between Tottenham and Eintracht Frankfurt, which took place in Frankfurt, Germany. We're going to discuss a little bit about the game yesterday, how I thought some of the Spurs players played. We're also going to look ahead at the Brighton game this upcoming weekend, and some changes that I'd like to see happen, even though I don't think they probably won't happen. So first, this was how Spurs lined up in a 3-4-3. Conte, very typical with this system. Um, we struggled in this game. It wasn't as bad as social media is making it out to be. However, we should have won. The finishing just was not great. Spurs had their chances, absolutely. I think we had a 1.36 expected goals for this game, but it was still a poor performance. A few players did have decent performances. I thought Clement Lenglet played pretty well, probably his best game in a Spurs shirt so far. I thought Højbjerg didn't play too bad. Eric Dyer didn't have a bad game. Lloris had one really big save, which I think probably if you go back to it, I think Frankfurt probably should have scored on it just because the defense kind of fell asleep. But the attackers just really struggled. We created chances. That's something that did happen, and Harry Kane and Sonny both missed chances that I think if they could have back, they would score. I didn't think Richarlison played that well. However, that's something that, I mean, watching him for Everton as well, and I know Everton's not Spurs, but and that's no offense to Everton, but the attacking ability and the strength of the squad is not the same. But I didn't think Richarlison, he kind of a little bit ghosted in this game. But that I totally expect him to come back, and he has so much energy and he works so hard that he's one of those players that may not have the best game, but he makes a difference for his teammates around him, which I think is one of the reasons why I think he was a great purchase for Spurs. So first, I want to talk about Lenglet. He had 6 ground duels won, 4 aerial duels, and 3 interceptions. He was 5 for 13 on long passes. The reason I bring up the long passes thing is there's a debate kind of going on Spurs Twitter right now. It's not really even a debate. For the most part, people really want Lenglet to be the future left-sided center back in the 3. My opinion on it is I think Davies is a better fit for Conte's system. I know Ben Davies is kind of a polarizing figure, gets a lot of blame from Spurs fans. Not everyone, but some, and because he's nothing special. He's a hard worker, an extremely safe player. Doesn't make a lot of mistakes, but when he does make one, it's kind of in the spotlight. But his ability to play balls out of the back is something that Lenglet has, but I don't think he's as good at it as Davies is. And in Conte's system, I really wish we could have Dyer, Vertonghen, and Alderweireld because of their ability to play the balls out of the back. And this is something Dyer's really improved at. Alderweireld was very good at it, so was Vertonghen, and it's something that we've been searching for a very long time. Davies fit that. Last season was able to kind of deputize in that role. And I know, Spurs were looking at a big left-sided center back, whether it was, there was multiple names thrown around, but we never actually purchased one, and we got Lenglet on loan from Barcelona, which I'm totally fine with. If you can't get who you want this window, then, get someone else in there who's, for the time being, and then we'll find somebody else who will be able to play that position. There was a player on the other team today who I think could play that position, Evan Ndicka. He had a really good game. He's really impressive. I'm sure Spurs were paying attention. I know we were linked to him this summer, but he played a really good game. Young player, one of Frankfurt's best players today. I mean, I also thought Kevin Trapp. I think Kevin Trapp's a really good goalkeeper as well. One of those kind of a Peter, not a Peter Schmeichel, a Kasper Schmeichel kind of, one of those players that doesn't play for a really good team, and when he does play, he makes big saves, keeps him in the game. But I thought Evan Ndicka was a really good player for Frankfurt yesterday. Uh, as I said, I thought Bentancur, or not Bentancur, Højbjerg had a decent game. Bentancur, on the other hand, I see Twitter's a wild place. You see some people who think he's played outstanding, and some who thought played pretty poorly. I didn't think he had the best game in the world. He wasn't doing. I've seen Bentancur take over games, play these beautiful passes through the lines. Yesterday was not that. Just didn't seem to have it. Now it also could have been as well that our forwards were just way off. You know, and that happens. Sonny still hasn't, even though he scored a hat trick at Leicester and scored 2 goals on international break for South Korea, still isn't playing to the level that we all would love him to play at. But he will get there. I have no doubts in my mind. Didn't think Ivan Perisic had the best game in the world. Um, didn't think Emerson Royale had the best game in the world. He's going to throw. I mean, he's a very polarizing player on Twitter for Spurs fans, especially after the red card in the North London derby, uh, which I like Emerson Royale. I think that given time, he can turn out to be a good right back. However, for Conte's system, Emerson Royale right now is not the person who should be playing. In saying that, we're not in training. I can't see what's going on in training with Matt Doherty and Jed Spence. It's always seemed to me that Doherty should be the guy. He played that role for Wolves and he did it really, really well back under Nuno. And he just never really got his legs under him, except for that small period of time last season before he hurt himself. And now that Emerson has a red card and is out for the next 3 Premier League games, I'm interested to see what happens. It's obviously Doherty is the number one. All the fans are sitting there thinking he's going to be the guy. I have a different opinion about that. I'll get to that when we get to the Brighton game. But when we attack on the right side, between Romero and Emerson, neither of them are very good at playing longer passes, which is something that I know Romero, I really love to see him kind of improve at. If he could get if he could kind of get Toby Alderweireld's ability to play a long pass, Romero's already one of the best defenders in the Premier League. It just takes him to a whole nother level after that. But just didn't think we played that well yesterday. A point's a point. I'm happy with it. Lloris had a really big save on kind of a defensive mishap. Guy just ran right through the middle, and defenders just kind of watching. We've had that a lot this season, where defenders just kind of seem to watch and don't. Goals happen that way, or Lloris has to make a really big save, and it just kind of that's kind of how it's been over the last few weeks watching Spurs. But I'll take a point. I'm happy with it. And, now we need to go on and focus on Brighton. We have a really, really not a tough run of games coming up. It's just a compact run of games. We have a game every 3 days. So, I'm excited to see how Spurs do with it. We talked about how the squad has grown, except then we see, with the Lucas Moura and the Kulusevski injuries, Brian Hill is the first guy off the bench for when it comes to attacking. And I know Conte says he trusts him. Conte doesn't trust him. And that's very obvious to see. He just doesn't. But that's kind of the situation we're in, and we have to watch it. That's what needs to happen. All right. So games coming up this weekend. Brighton, Tottenham, big game. Super excited about it. Two top 4 teams, and I know Brighton just had to change at head coach. Graham Potter is now at Chelsea, and so I'm excited to watch this game and see how Brighton play, because I really like Brighton. I love the way they played under Potter. I think Potter's a really good coach and a great pickup for Chelsea. But I'm excited to watch Spurs at home. We seem to it's just kind of the home and away thing. Spurs are trying to make um, the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium the White Hart Lane that it used to be, and make it really like a fortress. And I'm hoping that we can do that. And I have no doubts that we can. We have the team that can do it. But when it comes to Spurs, uh, a lot of people are, as I said, thinking about Matt Doherty playing at that right wing back role, and a lot of people think that we'll play a three in the midfield with um, Basuma, Bentancur, and Højbjerg. Don't think either of those two things are going to happen. And here's why. I very highly doubt that Conte will change his system to a three in the midfield. It, especially, I think a big result, and I know the North London derby was 3-1 Arsenal, and we got dominated, but we had a red card. It was, the first goal that Thomas Partey scored. You can't do anything about that, right? That happens. An unbelievable shot occurs, and you sit there and say, "Oh, whatever." I mean, yeah. Do I think we should have been pushed out more? Absolutely, I do. But that's something I just sit there and say, "Wow, what a great shot!" Whatever. The second goal was a mistake on Lloris's part and Romero's, both of them. It wasn't just Lloris. And then we got a red card, and going down 3-1, then because we got a red card is something that I I don't think it demands a system change. I think three midfielders is a great idea. I wish one of them was a little more Christian Eriksen esque, someone who can James Madison, a player that we all knew we needed in the summer and didn't get. So I'm hoping that we can uh, kind of figure out a way to still create chances um, without that creative player. I think it'll be Kane, Son, Richarlison, and then Bentancur and Højbjerg. I would love to see Basuma play. I think he's an outstanding player, and I'm sure he's frustrated being on the bench because he's arguably the best midfielder on our team. I love Højbjerg, and I think he's outstanding, but I think Basuma, just talent-wise, is just unbelievable. So I think it'll be a 3-4-3. I think Sessegnon will start on the left and Perisic on the right. I don't think Conte trusts um, Doherty. I know he doesn't trust Spence, and I think Jed Spence is a super talent, and I can't wait to see him play. But Sessegnon struggled. I know he had injuries and stuff to get in the lineup for a few years, and now he seems to be kind of this. You know, he's a very good player, and he's going to get better. He's 21 years old, and I feel the same way about Jed Spence. I think he's going to have to put his time in and work, and I think he'll become a superstar player. Um, but Brighton are a good team. Uh, I'm hoping for my prediction is a 2-1 win for Spurs at home. I think it was if it was um, at Brighton, I would say that Brighton have a good chance to take a point, if not three. I think they're a really good team. I think Andres Trossard is. Oh man, I would love for Spurs to sign him. He's a special player, and I think he's really, really good. And it's amazing to me that Brighton lost their two best players in the transfer window, and they're still playing out of their mind. Um, and when I mean out of their mind, I mean they're in fourth place, and you know, we're 7, 8 games into the season. I know things drop off, and they did last year too, but that's just that's two things. One, Graham Potter being as good as he is, and two, I think the structure at Brighton is just something that teams like Manchester United, Spurs, to even Spurs should look at and say, "Wow, like the way they scout players, bring up youth, build a system, have give trust in a coach." I think these teams that go through coaches and change systems all the time should look at them and say, "That's like Arsenal are doing right now." Arsenal are a really good team, and because they trusted a system and they went with it, and they didn't do it blindly. I'm sure Arteta had been on the hot seat, but Brighton and Arsenal are super impressive to me. That they have done business really well and are continuing to play at a very high level. And I think Spurs game this weekend is going to be a tough one. But I'm hoping for a 2-1. I'm hoping for a win. Doesn't matter what the score is, but I'm thinking 2-1. And I'm just hoping that we can get it across the line. That's gonna do it for my first YouTube video. If anybody watches this, I appreciate it, and I'll be back later this week with another one. Thanks.